I'd like to say a couple of words about the context of the Pennsylvania 40th Investigating Grand Jury. Local grand juries have been impaneled in the past to try to get to the heart of the phenomenon of clergy sexual abuse. And some of these local investigations include Suffolk County, New York, the Boston Archdiocese, conducted by the State Attorney General Riley, and in Westchester County, New York, all in 2002. In Manchester, New Hampshire, by that State Attorney General in 2003. In Philadelphia in 2003, there was a grand jury investigation conducted in Philadelphia by the district attorney there, Lynn Abraham, and also in Portland, Maine by the state attorney general there. So investigations and regional reports of the sexual abuse of children by Catholic clerics are nothing new. There's a history of these local investigations by civil authorities in the United States. Another example in Pennsylvania was in 2013. The 37th statewide grand jury in PA was convened to examine the phenomenon of clergy sexual abuse in the Diocese of Altoona, Johnstown. And so after many isolated and repeated reports of sexual abuse by Catholic clergy, the Attorney General in Pennsylvania heard the complaints and sensed the collective pain of victims in South Central Pennsylvania back in 2013. In September of 2016, it was reported across Pennsylvania that the Attorney General's office here had convened the 40th investigating grand jury to investigate the phenomenon of clergy sexual abuse, but uniquely now on a statewide basis. The testimony of multiple witnesses has been reported recently, going back to 2016, in fact. This multi-diocese grand jury report represents a unique voice for the voiceless. Survivors of clergy sexual abuse in Pennsylvania were offered this opportunity to speak the truth about their trauma, their abusers, and the institutional mechanisms which supported these crimes. In fact, the 40th investigating grand jury in Pennsylvania was impaneled much earlier than has been reported, and you can see this in the bid, solicitation, and schedule documents that are available on the internet. It is in the communication of their schedule to potential vendor bids that it appears that the grand jury was in fact impaneled in May of 2016 and not in September of 2016 as widely reported. And this time frame jibes with the maximum 24-month Pennsylvania statutory mandate. And this led to the reporting that their work was completed in April of this year, April of 2018, and subsequently confirmed as such by the Attorney General's office. I'd like to suggest that while subpoenas to individual Pennsylvania dioceses were also reported in September of 2016, that doesn't mean in any way that that's when the work of the Attorney General's office began. It began in May of that year. And as I say, we know this by the various documents the state has to file in seeking bids on hotels and accommodations and things like that for grand jurors. All of that's available publicly. So I'd like to say this Pennsylvania grand jury, whose work concluded in May, has been operating earlier and on a more thorough basis than what most of the reporting up to this point has revealed. According to Father Thomas Doyle, who's somebody who's advised me and supported me as I testified before the grand jury, he regards this investigation as unprecedented. This is an unprecedented regional investigation, and it's the equivalent, in his words, of investigating a mid-sized European country. In other words, this is unprecedented. Nothing like the Pennsylvania 40th investigating grand jury has ever before happened in the United States. its closest antecedents would be the Australian Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse, or a sum total of local grand jury investigations in the United States. And so all of that is a little bit about the context of this report that we are receiving from the Pennsylvania grand jury, the investigating grand jury, and the Attorney General of the state.